What does space sound like? A bit like this, according to NASA.
In this episode of Fizzics TWIST, how that space sound was made,
Climate change is weird and terrifying conclusion.
and the truth behind reported HIV cures. She's back! G'day, Quill. How are you?
Konnichiwa, Duncan.
Oh, where did you learn that?
I just came back from Japan.
How was?
It was fantastic.
I'm very glad to hear that. We missed you while you were away.
And I miss being here too, actually.
Yeah. But rest assured, we did record some beautiful, delicious podcast episodes. One with Kate, when we talked about International Women's Day, among other things.
Fantastic.
And one with Holly, where we talked about how you shouldn't burp in space.
I'm disappointed I missed that one.
Absolutely, because those are two of your favourite things.
Burping in space.
Yeah.
Or burping in disappointment.
Burping in space. What's funny about the burping in space thing, apparently if you do burp in space, you're more likely to do something called a vomit.
Ew.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need to describe what that is.
Nah, I think people get it.
It describes itself.
So, Quill.
Yes, Duncan.
What can you hear in space?
Space junk.
No.
Nothing,
You
right?
can't hear anything. Why can you not hear anything?
Because there's no sound in
There
space.
is no sound. Nothing at all.
Yeah.
And most movies actually have some sort of sound going on in space.
Yeah.
But that's not right.
No.
There'd be nothing. The only movie that I've seen that did it right was 2001,
Oh, yeah.
which is quite a
Space Odyssey.
space odyssey, the very same.
Right.
Yes. And that's it's not a fun movie, to be honest.
No.
No.
Why is there no sound?
Because there's no air.
Exactly.
Because sound needs air or water or a medium.
Some medium.
Some sort of medium.
To wiggle through.
To wiggle through, that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is because that's absolutely wrong. No, it's not. It's mine. But I really threw you for a loop there.
You did.
So we kind of know what space sounds like.
Okay.
And the reason that we know this is because friends of the podcast, NASA, have taken a beautiful image of space that they took with the Hubble telescope.
Fantastic.
And they have converted that image into a sound. I shall play it for you now.
Wow, that's really cool.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bleeps and bloops and all that fun stuff. So what they did is a process called sonifying. Mm-hmm. Really all that means is they converted it from an image into sound. And
Fantastic.
the way that they did it is they take each little pixel of light that comes into that image,
Yep.
and depending on its location in the image, whether it's more to the left or more to the right, or more to the top or the bottom, they process it into a corresponding sound.
Okay.
The way this works is if it's towards the left-hand side of the image, it appears at the start of the sound. If it's towards the right, it's more towards the end.
Yep.
Yeah, you can visualize
Makes
that.
sense.
Yep.
Kind of like graphing out a sound.
Like graphing a sound. Beautiful analogy. And then, if it's near the top, it has a high frequency, which sounds like...
A squeaky, squeaky sound.
And if it's towards the bottom, it's a...
It's a really low sound.
low sound.
Low.
And that's what they did. Now, this is super cool.
It is.
In my personal opinion. You can feel free to disagree.
No, it's cool.
And I think it's really cool. But what you can do, I'll put a link in the show description, the show notes that actually, so you can see the image for yourself. And if you play it, you can sort of see where each different galaxy or different star corresponds to a different sound.
That's really awesome.
And there's a whole bunch. There's lots in the background, so they're like a little bit faint, so they're not as loud as well.
Makes sense.
And there's absolutely massive ones, so they're like closer to us. They're brighter. Some of them are larger as well.
Yeah.
One particularly large one is a galaxy cluster called You ready for it? Mm-hmm. RXC J0142.9 plus 4438.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Certainly does.
Great name. I think I'd like to call future children that name. Just, can you imagine that?
My
Calling that out.
firstborn son.
So proud for graduation day. Go and get your degree, RXJ, something, something.
Oh, the other thing I should mention, as I said, from bottom to top,
Yep.
low frequencies to high frequencies, it only ranges from 30 hertz. Hertz is basically a measure of the pitch of the sound.
Yep,
'cause
so
it's
how many things per
vibrations.
second, basically, right?
Yep. Goes from 30, which is really low. That's
Yep.
almost near the limit, like the bottom limit of human hearing, up to 1,000 hertz. And 1,000 hertz, I would estimate, is probably about, I'm going to do an impersonation of 1,000
Okay,
hertz. It's
let's
about,
hear it. Oh, so it's not super high.
not super high, but that's probably higher than that. Let me try again.
That was a
was
little
pretty
bit higher.
I really have no idea what I'm doing. So there you go. I just think it's a really neat thing because personally it brings together two of my personal loves in life, space and sound. Yeah. Just sound, yeah.
We know you love space and sound.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And it also sounds quite beautiful. I
It does.
think.
And it sounds quite positive, which I like.
Yeah. It's the nice bleeps and bloops.
Yeah.
From like a Disney space movie.
Yeah.
Not a 2001 We're All Going to Die kind of space movie.
And there is a lot of the We're All Gonna Die space
There's a lot of
movies,
that.
except
You know-
the main character.
You know what else? Interstellar, which is, kind of it's a very tense space movie.
Yeah.
You know what that has in it?
Bleeps and
As a
bloops.
sound effect?
Space junk.
No, the shepherd tone.
Oh.
It's got the shepherd tone in it. You know what? Maybe we should release that as a...
We might have to.
have to.
We recorded a nice little fun snippet of a podcast for a bit of an audio-visual fun kind of illusion thing, and that's what got the shepherd's tone. Let's include the shepherd's tone in the show notes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because we can just put it into... I don't know, we'll put it somewhere. We'll
Somewhere.
figure it out. It's
We'll
going to go in the
stick it
show notes, and it's really interesting. It's an auditory illusion.
Cool.
A constantly rising pitch that creates a lot of tension. So there you go. It's a nice sound. It's a Disney one. It's not a 2001 Interstellar kind of space
Fantastic.
sound.
Well, that's really cool. I like the idea of taking an image and turning it into a sound. Like, I think that's really amazing, and I feel like sometimes you look at things and you feel like you can almost hear what that thing would be.
For sure.
And also it would be nice for people that maybe can't, it's for maybe people that can't see, might like to hear what those galaxies might look like.
Yeah.
That'd be
and
cool
now
too.
you know.
Yeah.
Because you can turn sounds into images. That's what like waveforms
Yeah.
are. I saw a really cool video on the YouTubes where someone videotaped some aluminium foil moving
Yep.
because they played a sound through a large speaker
Okay.
next to aluminium foil.
Yeah.
The air vibrations
Ah, yeah.
move the aluminium foil. This person recorded a video of the aluminium foil
Yeah.
and managed to extract what the sound was based upon the movement of the aluminium
That's
foil.
cool.
So cool.
Like when we play slime through our speaker.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to that.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Cool.
How's that?
Awesome.
Should we move on?
Yeah, let's move
Wonderful.
on.
Now, I think with the next few stories we're going to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
this is where it turns from fun things into not so fun things.
Yeah.
It's where the new theme music really doesn't match up with the tone of the podcast.
Yeah.
This is where it gets kind of heavy.
So we like to do fun things, and we have a very fun theme music.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes in science, you've got to talk about serious things, and
Serious
sometimes things that are a little bit sad.
Yeah.
Because this is what sometimes a lot of the time what we're doing in science is trying to fix some of these sad things.
Precisely.
So if you've got like maybe little kids in the car or wherever you're listening, we have got a couple of stories that are a little bit sadder. So maybe if you don't want to listen to them or they're a bit more intense, they don't have to listen. Or, maybe it's good for them to learn about some of the other parts of the world.
That's right. That's up to your judgment.
Okay, so the first story we're going to talk about a little bit, again, now it's a little bit sadder, is On the Green. So On the Green with me.
On the green with Quill.
I'm back.
On the green with Quill. On the green with Quill.
And I'm ready to rant about climate
Raring
change
to
again.
go. Yep.
Yeah. It's been like 3 whole weeks that I have been over in Japan and haven't had a chance to rant about climate change because I don't even know how to say climate change in Japanese.
Oh, there you go.
I've been saving it all up. And this story is about clouds.
Yes. Love
Okay.
clouds.
Love clouds. So clouds are great.
Yes.
Yeah, they're pretty. You can look at them. And clouds actually do a lot of interesting things. And we actually don't just have one kind of cloud. We can get lots of different kinds of clouds. And these different kinds of clouds can do different things.
I know a cloud.
Okay.
Cumulonimbus. No, wait, I messed it up. Cumulonimbus.
I like that. That's pretty impressive. I'm impressed. I know a cloud.
What is it?
Stratocumulus.
Oh, that was almost the same, but it's different.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about the stratocumulus.
Okay, so this story is about stratocumulus clouds, and these are large, dark, big clouds, okay? And they usually form in big kind of groups or waves or something like that. And what they actually do is they're really important in climate change because these clouds are big and they're white and they reflect light. Mm-hmm. So they send that light that's coming to Earth and they zing it back away from us.
Gotcha.
And this helps to prevent us from getting too hot.
They zing it? Is that what the article says?
That's not a technical term.
Oh, okay.
That's a Quill's term.
Yeah.
They reflect it away
Science
from us.
communicator.
Okay, yes. Okay, so on Earth we have this huge array of different kinds of clouds. Okay, lots of different kinds. But these can be changed by climate change.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we know that the climate change can change them. And these kind of stratocumulus clouds might disappear.
Gotcha.
And this is like a vicious circle.
Oh.
Right. So the more we have climate change, the more likely it is we're going to lose these clouds. Once we lose these clouds, the more likely it is we're going to get even hotter because the clouds aren't going to be reflecting light.
And the clouds disappear when?
The clouds are going to disappear not today, not tomorrow, but when we reach a critical level of how much carbon dioxide we have in the environment, which is then going to be in turn how hot we kind of get.
So it's, from what I saw, 1,200 parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere.
So when we get to, actually it's 1,300. So when we get to 1,300 parts per million, which basically means for every million parts, there's 1,300 of those are carbon dioxide.
Take a pie, cut it into a million slices. Yeah.
So when we get to that much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which is 3 times what we currently have.
It's a lot.
So it's a lot. But we're really ramping up how much carbon dioxide we're still not meeting our climate change kind of agreements and all that kind of stuff. This is why it's so important.
I heard that even if we stopped all CO2 emissions today, the climate, the temperature of the Earth would keep increasing for the next 100 years.
Yeah, because we've put so much out there.
It's just wild, isn't it?
Very unfortunate and very stupid.
Sorry to interrupt, but 1,300, we get to a point, clouds disappear.
Yep.
And
then they stop reflecting the light.
Gotcha.
Which means we then have more light coming in and we continue to get hotter and hotter and hotter.
Oh.
So climate change and this global warming obviously is not a great thing. The hotter we get, and this said, actually, if this happens, we can get up to 8 degrees hotter than where we're already trending to go. So you know those 46 degree, 52 degree days we had this summer? Bump that up to 60.
Oh. But you'd cook.
Yeah.
You would absolutely cook. That's like living in a cup of hot tea. That's your life now.
That's tea, man. It's not good. So this was all done by a researcher called Tapio Schneider that works at Caltech.
Yep.
And they actually did all this by mathematical modelling. Okay, so simulations on a computer. So clouds are pretty hard to simulate, okay? They're pretty erratic. We've got all sorts of different kinds. But they've done, over the last 2 years, they've done probably millions and billions or thousands at the very least of simulations running the model of what will happen with these clouds.
Okay.
And yeah, it's not looking great.
It's not looking great, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So he also said, if I remember correctly, that he's not particularly worried that we're going to get to that point. So this is kind of like, it's like a hypothetical situation.
Yeah.
Because he was saying that he hopes, and the key word is hopes, that civilization will get, to a point where we go, okay, we're going to put the kibosh on this.
Yeah.
We're going to stop it.
Yeah, we're going to realise
that high.
All right, it's not funny anymore. We actually have to stop with the climate change. We actually have to help and start doing the things we need to do. We all know what we need to do, but it's like a little bit too much effort, or it's like a little bit more expensive, or whatever.
Yeah.
And at some point, we need to go, okay, we need to stop now.
I think it has to be. It has to be a little bit better than the sort of minor environmentally responsible things that we all do, like bringing our cloth bags to the supermarket. Like, it has to be on an institutional kind of level, which, I mean, I don't know when that's going to happen. But anyway, that's why it's so heavy, this topic.
It is. Yeah. And that's why we said it's a bit of a sad topic, but important topic nonetheless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, should we leave it at that? I think so. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Yeah. It's making me sad. Because I'll be swimming. We'll all have to be scuba divers.
Yeah, but not in a fun way.
No, exactly.
Like, scuba diving's fun.
Yeah.
a little adventure, but we don't have gills. So
No.
we don't want to be scuba diving it all the time,
Unless you're a mutant.
which would be also cool.
I saw Waterworld recently.
Yes.
Weird movie.
Yeah.
Ben, company director and CEO, told me to watch it. And he said it was a terrible movie. Lo and behold, absolutely correct.
Terrible movie.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Please don't sue us.
But they were mutants that had gills.
Yes.
Speaking of mutants.
And it was because of climate change. It's like it's Mad Max on water.
It is.
That's what we're saying here, people. We don't go and see Waterworld. It's not a good movie.
The main thing is,
be like
if
that.
we get too hot, icebergs melt, sea level goes up.
Yep.
Start already happening in South Pacific, places like that are really low on sea level.
Yep.
Next stop, I mean, I live 2 streets back from the beach. As much as it'd be great to be right on the waterfront, it's not a great idea.
Yeah.
We don't want the
Have
sea
to
levels rising like
Get
that.
your gills installed
Yeah.
ASAP.
Twist.
Moving on.
Moving on.
All right, so this one, folks, this is probably where the warning really comes into play. So this story is all about. You may have seen. I'm going to try that again. You may have seen in the media recently. There's been reports of a second and third person having been cured of HIV/AIDS.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
For a little bit of context, as I said, it was second and third. There has actually been a first.
Yes.
I wrote a little article about a topic that's relevant to this, which I shall link in the show notes. Basically, there's this guy called the Berlin patient.
Ooh.
So named because he was living in Berlin at the time when all this went down in about 2008.
Makes sense.
Yes. So this guy, his actual name is Timothy Ray Brown. He was diagnosed with HIV in 1995. Mm-hmm. In 2000, just to give a background on HIV, what it does is it effectively completely weakens your immune system, attacks your white blood cells, leaves you more open to infection and cancers. Now, he had HIV for about 11 years. Then in 2006, he was diagnosed with leukemia. Mm-hmm. It's a bit of a double whammy.
Yeah.
Not good.
You've already got HIV, and then you get leukemia as well.
Exactly.
And this is obviously also partly because he had such a weakened immune system from the HIV. So that is, you know how your body can fight off a cold and all that kind of stuff? Well, that's your immune system. That's your white blood cells fighting that off. So when you've got HIV, which is really lowering your immunes, then you're suddenly open to lots of other infections and gross things.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So he was in a bit of a tricky spot. But what they did is, to treat his leukemia, they gave him a bone marrow transplant.
Wow.
Okay, so your bone marrow is effectively where your immune system is born. That's where your white blood cells come from, the white blood cells being the ones that fight off viruses and infections.
Yeah.
So he got this bone marrow transplant, and this is where it gets interesting. He got a bone marrow transplant from someone with a mutated CCR5 gene. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The CCR5 gene is basically the protein in the blood where HIV can actually enter the cell.
Yeah, so it's called, what we call it is a receptor, right?
Yeah,
so a
there you
receptor, if you imagine it's kind of like a little thing where you can arrive at as something else that's coming into the cell.
Yeah.
And in this case, if the HIV arrives at this receptor, it's able to kind of attach itself to this protein, and that allows it to actually get inside the cell. So what they do is they kind of hijack the receptor's normal mechanism, normal way it does things, and it actually gets itself inside of the cell, and that's what it does. But what happens when we have a mutation in this? So Delta 3-2 mutation is what it's called.
Yep.
And this means it actually has taken away like 32 parts of the DNA.
Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so is that like 32 like letters off the...
Yeah.
Really?
In
The A's and C's and T's and
Yeah.
G? Really?
Yeah.
Dr. Quill. I'm very impressed.
Yes.
I hope that's right.
No, that's right. That's right. You made me question myself then. And so what it does is that, and what it actually does is if you take that much of the DNA, in this case, it changes the way that the receptor will work. So it can no longer do what it's supposed to do, which in this case is a good thing. It no longer takes the HIV inside the cell.
There you go. So this person was naturally, the donor was naturally resistant to HIV. I say resistant, not immune, they're resistant. So it limits the ability of HIV to actually enter these cells. So Timothy Ray Brown received that transplant with the CCR5 Delta 32 mutation. And after that, he was basically cured of HIV. He went off his antiretroviral medication.
Wow.
So antiretrovirals being a type of medication that suppresses HIV. He went on it, but his HIV blood count went plummeted straight down. And it's
amazing.
been completely undetectable since. So in 2008, they basically announced that he'd been cured of HIV. First person ever.
Yeah, and there's
verifiably.
millions of people around the world that are infected
Millions
with
and
this,
millions
and
and
it can be
millions.
passed down to children, which is another horrible thing
Yep.
from parents and stuff like that. So really important, and it's a horrific disease, and so that's why it's so important to look for a cure, and there's currently no known cures.
Yes.
So
Apart
that's
from
why it's...
this weird
Yeah.
method.
Exactly.
So now it's been announced that there's been a second and possibly third people who have also been cured of HIV.
Yeah,
The
wow.
second one happened only recently, called the London patient. The London patient effectively had the same thing. They got HIV in about 2003, was
Yep,
it? 2003. And a few years later, they were diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. Also not something. So again, same thing, because the HIV attacked their body, left them open to cancers, they ended up getting a type of cancer. Double whammy, not fun.
Not fun.
They went through the same treatment.
Transplant.
Got better. Cured of HIV. Third person, 3 days afterwards. So it's 12 years between the first two. And then 2 or 3 days later, there's a third person. Same thing happens. Okay? So we might be thinking there's something to this, right?
Yeah.
This
Also, with them being more close together, I wonder if it's starting, because obviously if you are resistant to HIV, that's a positive thing. So I wonder if it's starting to select for people that have that resistance gene.
Who, the doctors are selecting for that? Or?
No, not doctors, but just evolution, genetically. Are these preferable?
Oh.
It's a positive thing. It prevents you from getting HIV. Chances are there'll be more of these people increasing, right? Because they're not
Potentially.
going to die off.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I think it's too early
It's too
for
early,
that to have
but-
taken effect, but
Yeah.
I do know that there's 16% of Northern Europeans have the CCR5 delta 32
Yeah.
mutation.
Wow.
Random factoid. There you go. So, the media is basically saying, oh, this is amazing. Everyone's going to be cured of HIV. This is fantastic news. Hold the phone there, folks.
Yeah.
Not so fast.
Not quite that easy.
Not quite that easy.
No.
Because, as we basically said, in order to be treated with HIV and therefore cured of it in this way, you have to have both HIV and cancer.
Yes.
Now, Timothy Ray Brown, the first person I was talking about, when he received his transplant, he went into a coma and almost died.
Yes. So it's not like getting a needle that helps to prevent you from getting sick. You have to
No.
have your entire bone marrow transplanted.
Effectively, his entire immune system was replaced.
Yes.
The other two people, they went on less intense treatment,
Okay.
I believe.
Probably
So, I mean,
things
that's a
have
good thing.
advanced a little bit since
Yeah.
then, so that's good.
Exactly. The other thing is that I think it's in all three cases, they end up getting something called graft versus host disease,
Right.
which is kind of like when transplants get rejected, but in reverse.
Yeah.
So the new immune system that's going into a new host is actually rejecting its host.
Yeah.
So the white blood cells from the transplant are going into this new host and saying, I don't like it here.
Yeah, wow. So normally our immune system works by going, here's my white blood cells, they fight off infection. Anything new, like someone else's blood coming in, I'm going to fight that off because it's foreign to me.
Precisely.
But if your entire white blood cell system has been replaced with someone else's, in essence,
They're attacking
your
you.
body is like getting attacked from the inside by
Yeah.
a foreign set of white blood cells that are inside your body.
Exactly. Because
It's pretty
it thinks that you're a foreign body in some way.
Yeah, wow. And
So
yeah.
here's the other thing. We don't know now whether it's the CCR5 delta 32 mutation that's actually done the work here or if it's the graft versus host disease that's actually been killing the HIV infected cells.
Okay.
Totally wild.
Yeah.
You really, really don't want to have this treatment.
No.
That's the problem with it.
Which is a shame. But also, not only is it an invasive and horrible treatment,
Yep.
it's not an easy or cheap treatment, right? We
No,
can't be
it's
rolling it
expensive.
out to the millions of people, especially, unfortunately, in a lot of the third world countries where this infection mostly takes place. It's not that easy to just roll it out to everyone. So,
Yeah.
unfortunately, not really a treatment just yet. Mm-hmm. But these kind of things are the kind of ideas that scientists can learn from. They can see how that prevents the disease and what it does, and they can start to model on that using different animal models and cell models, and then they can start to take the ideas of how does this block this or how does it prevent this and start to work on it from there.
There you go.
Good
Same-
starting point.
Absolutely good starting point. So effectively the best way to manage HIV now is to not undergo this treatment because it's so risky, but also just stay on antiretroviral drugs because nowadays they're amazing.
Yeah.
I talked to a guy, it's in the article, can't remember his name, doctor who was actually inside lots of hospitals in the late 80s and early 90s when the HIV crisis was at its peak. And he was talking about how doctors in the UK were using drugs completely wrong. And he was like, you need to use triple therapy. And that's now the standard.
Okay.
So antiretrovirals are a combination of different types of drugs.
Right. It probably attacks the cell attack at different points and stops it in lots of different ways so that if they're changing, they can stop them and those kind of things.
Which means that people can lead pretty normal lives
Yep.
Using antiretrovirals. And they only take one a day. It used to be you have to have a box full of them. It'd be horrible taking those every day.
But, you know, that doesn't discredit the whole idea of this mutated gene because that's mutations in genes are often where we can begin new kind of ideas for hopefully preventative treatments rather than just treatments that help prevent the symptoms once you've already got it. So things that might help to prevent people getting it in the first place. It's always better to stop it happening as opposed to just treating it once it has happened.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I wonder if the mutation would have any negative effects as well.
And this is where science would have to go before you could start using it for those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, interesting. So it's not, you know, a party of celebration or anything like that.
Yep.
But it is a very, very interesting discovery because we know that the mechanism itself works. It's just
it's interesting.
It's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if any media people tell you HIV cured, no, not quite. Let's not get too excited. So there you go.
Very interesting.
Sad part, heavy part, over.
All right.
Let's play some theme music. And we're back.
Back to the silliness.
Back to silliness. We got one more thing we want to talk about. Quill, what is it?
It's something super exciting.
Is it something related to what me and Kate talked about? International Women's Day.
Because we had International Women's Day last week, which was awesome.
Yep.
And I was very lucky. Holly and myself got to go to the Australian National Maritime Museum in Sydney.
Amazing.
And we were there for a big day of women in science kind of day. We talked to like hundreds of young prospective scientists.
Yes.
And there was lots of cool presenters and lots of great talks and lots of amazing scientists there. So that was really important.
Cool.
Now there's something else really important happening with women in science.
What is it?
The first ever all-female spacewalk is going to happen at the end of this month.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I know.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
Bit overdue.
Very overdue.
But we're not talking like the people out in space. We're talking the whole crew, right?
The whole crew. It's going to be an all-girl space adventure.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's okay. Like I said, bit overdue.
Yeah.
But I saw the tweet that came out from... What's her name? I've forgotten the name. Let me find it very, very quickly. Yeah, it was Kristen. Oh, yeah, her name is impossible to pronounce. I'm so sorry. Kristen Fasciol? I hope that's right. She said, I just found out that I'll be on console providing support for the first all-female spacewalk.
Yeah.
She's obviously very excited. With Astro Animal and Astro Christina, presumably other astronauts. And I cannot contain my excitement. And there's 4 exclamation marks.
That is exciting.
That's very excited.
Deservedly so.
STEM. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hashtag women in STEM. Hashtag women in engineering. Hashtag women in space.
Hashtag awesome.
Get him.
Yeah.
Let's get it.
And then, do you know what's coming up after that?
What's that?
The first ever Fizzics TWIST only staff members going to space.
Is it you and me?
Yeah.
Nice.
Space trip.
I'm included. I'm so glad that I'm included. That's so nice of you.
Well, if otherwise it would just be Quill Goes to Space. It doesn't have quite the same ring to it.
Quill Goes to Space. Look, if that were a documentary, I'd watch it.
It sounds like a kid's book.
The thing is, you've got to make sure that you're mic'd up
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
Otherwise,
there's no sound.
Can't podcast from space.
Because there's no... Yeah, we already talked about that.
So that's really exciting and about time. And go girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I think what they're doing, just in case people were wondering, is they're replacing some batteries on the International Space Station.
Excellent.
Yep. Great. Cool. Nice. Should we end it there?
I think that's a wrap for this week.
That's a wrap on this week's episode of... that's a wrap on this week's episode of Fizzics TWIST. Thank you for joining us. I'm Duncan.
I'm Quill.
You can also check out the Physics Ed podcast hosted by Ben Newsom.
Our lovely boss.
If you like listening to educators talk about how to educate, then that's probably up your alley. Don't forget, you can rate us on iTunes. Quill, what's your favourite number?
We like the number 5.
We certainly do.
It's a great number. There's 5 points on a star, 5 fingers on a hand. 5-star ratings for our podcast.
Crushed it. And what else? Oh, yeah. And we're powered by Physics Education. So thank you for listening. Theme music, go! See you next week.
Bye.